John, a lot of people, whether they're buying a house or things of that nature, they do planning. They need to understand maybe their own personal financial situation, their own personal family situation. When it comes to a business, though, and you guys do a lot of work with small, mid-sized businesses on maybe understanding their own financial health, are there certain aspects of maybe a startup or a small business that people need to be paying attention to, similar to, I guess, the way somebody might consider if they're ready to buy a house, maybe if they're ready to expand or they're ready to do different things?
Yep, no question. We definitely see patterns of success in businesses, and it's like we kind of look for them, and if people don't have those patterns or those key indicators, we're not likely to take them on as a client because, we're going to invest a lot of time and money ourselves into a new client. We want to see them be successful. Mm-hmm. I've actually suggested people not go into business or close a business because I could see the future, so to speak, in what they were doing. It's real easy when you have a cross-section of businesses to see some trends.
Mm-hmm. So when you start looking at, I guess, trends in small businesses, maybe give me a little bit about what you think, what a lot of business owners think they should be looking at, mm-hmm. and then maybe what those, the successful small businesses are actually doing. Because I imagine there's differences in like sales processes and what people are paying attention to. I know in the mortgage and real estate industry, you see people who all they want to do is pay attention to Yelp because mm-hmm. they said they do a really good job. Then they forget, well, I call it the field of dreams, right?
Right.
If you build it, they don't come.
Yeah. I actually do. I think that it would surprise people what I think enables a business to be successful. And I'll tell you, truthfully, the first one doesn't have anything to do with what I do as an accountant. It really comes down to the attitude and mindset of the entrepreneur. If they have this go-get-it attitude and this will to succeed, I see that bearing out more in their success than just about anything else. And, I've worked with a lot of venture capitalists and entrepreneurs over the years, and I'll just tell you, venture capitalists and angel investors, they bet on horses, not opportunities. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is they bet on the people first. So you could come into them with this great opportunity, the greatest ASP or the greatest software in the world, but at the end of the day, they're betting on the horse, mm-hmm. not the technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the teams and I guess the different pieces that each player plays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people get into business for the wrong reason too. They lost a job and they don't ever want to work for somebody again. So they say, well, I'll go out and start a business. Well, that's not the right idea either.
I like I turned in the security of a 40-hour-a-week job for the freedom of an 80-hour-a-week job.
Right. Yeah, so I think it's got to be purposeful. You've got to be able to get up and get in that fight every day, and that requires an attitude and a mindset that's just, characteristic of an indomitable spirit. Every day you're going to get up and you're going to make rain, And that kind of leads into the second thing, and again, one of those most important patterns of success, and that is just this sales-driven mindset, And what I mean by that is you are committed to developing a lead generation system, model, process, whatever you want to call it, that brings in a plentiful, steady supply of business to you that's meaningful, that has margin, that you like dealing with the customer base that comes in with that system, and that ultimately brings enough profit for you to live on and build a healthy business. So I see, some people, like you say, I'll build a website and they will come. Mm-hmm. I got news for you, folks.
Everybody's got a website.
I've seen that fails too many times.
Yeah, I do. I call it the field of dreams mentality.
There's no question.
I see it across all different businesses, and I see people that work on their systems and their process, and they're like, I can do anything perfectly.
Right.
But it doesn't matter if nobody's lining up at the door.
Exactly. And, I've seen a lot of, and I don't mean to stereotype a software developer because there are a lot of very good software developers, but you really have to pair a good software developer with a strong sales mindset because they're more indicative of the type of mentality of, I'll build a great product, it will happen. Whereas a sales mindset says, well, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D, and if those don't work, I'll just get on the phone mm-hmm. and I'll go knock on doors and I'll make this thing happen. Mm-hmm. Well, I got news for you. I'll bet on that horse a lot more than I will on the website, and they will come.
Yeah. Do you tend to see, I mean, so you're talking about getting people to line up at the door for business. What are some of those key ways that you see people doing it and that you would say, wow, that's just not going to work? Facebook?
It's interesting. I'm working with an entrepreneur who I got to be a little careful of his industry, but let's say he's created a business to consumer model. And in a couple of years, he's developed a business that produces over $200,000 a year in annual net income to himself using Facebook. He's kind of cracked the Facebook code. Now, I would say generally, don't strive to just use Facebook.
Right.
But it works for him.
Yeah.
I would say, but that is a danger signal. I think the website only is a danger signal. If you put all your chips on one, marker, one number, I think that's a danger signal. So I think what you've got to do is just come out of the gate and test galore until you see what works. I saw one business, you just laugh because this is about 10 years ago. And they went out and they tried everything. They tried radio, television, bus sides, bus benches, all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, and they'll never teach this in MBA school, never. But what worked for them was Yellow Pages advertising and Valpak coupons. And it worked like magic. Now, Yellow Pages probably won't work for them today. But I'll bet they're still doing the Valpak.
Right.
And I just tell people, look, test until you find out what is really working for your business. And when you know, then it's just repeat and keep doing it and make it more efficient.
Yeah, John Miller joins me, CPA and partner of GDM Private Financial Solutions. John, you talk about testing, and I guess when you start going through that part of business, you really do have to pay attention to some of the key parts, whether it's the key, where your customers are coming from, like a key marketer, key marketing avenue. But there's also other key aspects of a business that I think some people pay attention to and maybe some people don't.
Yeah. And before I jump to that answer, there is one number that I think is pretty important, and that's what I'll call a yield ratio. Now, again, you're not going to find this in any MBA school or anything, but basically it's what is the amount of dollars and effort you have to put into your marketing effort to generate customers, and what is the yield in terms of dollars. So if for every dollar you invest in advertising and marketing, you generate $20, you have a 20-to-1 yield ratio.
And you'll spend as many $1 as you can.
Well, exactly. And the funny thing is, in an economic downturn, where do most accountants like myself cut? Marketing. Well, you might as well just cut off your head.
Right.
But, in my firm, what we actually teach is, hey, you need to be investing more in that because that's what's generating your yield. And so along those lines, now we look at the other financial performance indicators to see what's working. And some people will call these KPIs, key performance indicators, but there's certain things you've got to look at every day. For example, I look at cash flow every day for my own business. I look at what do I think I'm going to collect today? What do I think I'm going to collect this week? And then I know for the next 2 weeks what I think I'm going to collect from my customers. And then I know what bills I have to pay. And then I know whether I'm going to be able to pay my mortgage or not.
Yeah, after everybody else gets taken care of, right?
So if I can't pay my mortgage or some bill, I've got to go out and work a little harder. That's a little better than having a train wreck 2 or 3 weeks down the road. So I think you've got to look at the actual and forecasted cash flow every single day. Another is just there's something we call contribution margin. It's a kind of a complicated term, but it basically just says, how much profit margin do you have to contribute to your fixed overhead? That would be like rent or payroll or anything like that, and a profit. And we use that a lot for financial planning and analysis for businesses. It's something we can help businesses do. We actually have some great tools that connect right up to QuickBooks and Great Plains and other accounting software that can help us determine some of this stuff. But we want to be able to use that kind of stuff and evaluate your profit and your contribution margin to see if it even makes sense to keep going in the direction you're doing or change something. So those are some things that are important. And then I can't come on your show, Ben, without talking about taxes, right?
Sure, right?
So you got to sort of pay attention to those, the tax obligations every month and every quarter because that can jump up and bite you at any time.
Right. Do you okay? So let's and a lot of these. at least, and this is something I notice, is it's very difficult sometimes to look at your own business objectively and determine what all these numbers are.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I've shut down some businesses. People get emotional about business and money, And in fact, money is one of those, probably the most emotional subject, out there. You can talk to a husband and a wife, and they both have a different perspective of it. Same thing with a business. We get so attached sometimes to our businesses that we don't want to shut it down when it makes financial sense to do so or to change something because we're just so convinced. Mm-hmm. So I've actually spent, with one couple, I spent over a year trying to persuade them that this was not the business, but no amount of persuasion or coaxing could work. And finally, when they are at a moment where the market has taught them, meaning they haven't made money, they've spent a lot of money, they were in a place where they were willing to accept good counsel. And we went through the numbers at that point, and they decided it would take probably 3 to 4 years before they could ever draw a profit out of this business. And they would long exhaust their financial resources before that time. So I think, the sooner you can involve somebody to kind of objectively look at your business, whether it's some kind of a financial coach, a CPA, or even having somebody internally, the better. Because, again,
kind of a CFO for hire, right?
Yeah, you're too emotionally attached to things. I'm emotionally attached to my business. There are things I want to do, but I have 2 good partners, and sometimes each of us, have different opinions, and it's pretty good to listen to them because it keeps us all out of trouble.